The flame of the forest. Deep in the heart of Indonesia, nestled among the towering trees and thick underbrush of the untouched jungle, there was a story told by the village elders, one that few dared to speak of after nightfall. It was a story about the Banaspati, a terrifying and mysterious creature of fire that haunted the darkest parts of the forest. It was said that those who ventured too deep into the woods after dusk never returned, their fate sealed by the blazing sphere that roamed the trees. Rhea had always been skeptical of such stories. She was a young woman with a keen sense of adventure, always eager to explore the vast wilderness that surrounded her village. Her father, a respected man in their small community, had warned her time and again about the dangers of the forest. But she, with her insatiable curiosity, couldn't resist the pull of the unknown. One evening, under the cover of dusk, Rhea decided to venture deeper into the jungle than she ever had before. The sky above was painted with streaks of orange and purple as the sun sank below the horizon. The air grew cooler, the jungle alive with the sounds of distant animals and the rustling of leaves. She tightened her grip on the machete she had brought along, cutting through the thick vines that threatened to block her path. Hours passed, and the jungle grew darker with each step. Rhea had been walking for what felt like an eternity, the path becoming less clear, more twisted. The air grew heavy, and the silence around her was unsettling, as though the entire forest held its breath. Then, just as she was about to turn back, she saw it. A flickering light in the distance, like a small ball of fire darting between the ancient trees. She froze, her heart pounding in her chest. It was too distinct to be a trick of the light, too steady to be the reflection of a flame. The ball of fire moved with purpose, swirling around the trees, its glow casting eerie shadows on the ground. Rhea's instinct screamed at her to turn back, but something kept her rooted to the spot. She had to know what it was. With caution, she began to follow the glowing orb, careful not to make a sound. The light flickered again, now closer, its movement erratic as it danced between the trees like an ethereal spirit. It wasn't like any fire she had ever seen. There was no warmth, no heat emanating from it. Only a strange, cold energy that seemed to suck the warmth from the air around her. The deeper she followed the light, the more the jungle seemed to change. The trees grew taller, their branches twisting and gnarled, their leaves thick and dark, casting long shadows that seemed to watch her every move. The path beneath her feet grew uneven, and the sound of distant whispers began to fill her ears. She tried to ignore them, but the voices were relentless, growing louder with each step. Suddenly, the light stopped. Rhea froze. Her heart raced in her chest as she stood in the shadow of the massive trees, her breath shallow. The ball of fire hovered in front of her, suspended in the air like a living thing, its glow pulsing with an unnatural rhythm. It was then that she realized it wasn't just a fire. It had a shape, a form of flickering sphere of flames that seemed to shift, like a living creature made of fire, its molten core swirling with dark, shifting energy. Banaspati. The word echoed in her mind like a warning. The stories her father had told her, the warnings the villagers had given, this was it. This was the creature of fire, the guardian of the forest, a being that lived among the trees and consumed those who dared to trespass. It was said that the Banaspati was a spirit of the jungle, a creature born of the ancient fires that burned within the earth, and it would never allow an intruder to leave alive. The ball of fire began to move again, this time faster, darting around her in a circle. Rhea stumbled back, but the Banaspati was faster. It flickered in front of her, blocking her path, its fiery tendrils licking the air like a predator toying with its prey. Rhea's breath hitched, panic rising in her chest as she looked around, searching for a way to escape. The jungle had gone eerily silent. The whispers had stopped, the wind had stilled. It was as if the forest itself was holding its breath, waiting for what would happen next. Then, the fireball lunged at her, moving faster than she could react. Rhea raised her arm instinctively, but it was too late. The Banaspati hit her with a force that sent her sprawling to the ground. The flames swirled around her, searing the air, but there was no heat, only a cold, suffocating presence that seemed to drain her strength. She could feel it now, an energy, dark and ancient, radiating from the creature. It was the forest itself, alive and watching, its presence overwhelming her every sense. Her skin burned, not from the heat, but from the malevolent force that the Banaspati exuded. She tried to crawl away, but her limbs felt heavy, as if the very air was pressing down on her. The fireball hovered over her, pulsating, its fiery light illuminating the twisted trees around them. It was as though it was feeding off her fear, growing larger, more intense with every passing moment. Rhea's vision blurred, and for a brief second, she thought she saw faces, hundreds of them within the flames, eyes watching her from within the fire's depths. And then, in a flash of clarity, Rhea understood. The Banaspati was not just a creature of fire. It was the embodiment of the forest itself, a guardian spirit that protected the jungle from those who sought to harm it. It was the rage of the earth, the fury of nature, and it would not let her leave. With all her remaining strength, Rhea tried to scream, but the sound was swallowed by the flames. The fireball engulfed her, her body fading into the darkness of the jungle, her last breath taken in the cold embrace of the Banaspati's fiery tendrils. The jungle fell silent again. As dawn broke over the village, the elders would speak of her disappearance, warning the younger generations to never venture too deep into the forest. For the Banaspati was always watching, waiting. It was said that if you listened closely on quiet nights, you could still hear the whispers of those lost to the flames, carried on the wind through the trees. And in the deepest, darkest corners of the jungle, the fireball still danced, a living flame waiting for the next intruder to cross its path.